everybody, it's Safi and Marco, Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. And it's just Marco here, once again, and I am just like, what the why did I wasted 2 hours on this trash, I swear. What? I hate bad movies. I hate them. Like, 'cause, you know why? Because if I was just a normal person, if I wasn't a critic, I'm not a critic, I'm just a reviewer. Because critics are basically, I think critics have just become like paid shills. Like, they're not even critics anymore. Because they don't critique, they just, say good things about things that are popular to say good things about and such. And, critics, reviewers, they have to watch the whole things. They can't just say, hey, this movie sucks, nothing's happening, I'm going to turn this off so that I can go enjoy my life, I'm going to go do something fun, I'm going to go, like, watch, let's see, what's my favorite one? I'm going to go watch, porno. I can't think of, like, which one I should use as an example. I'm going to go watch porno. I'm going to go, like, fucking eat a snack, eat some candies. I'm going to go, I don't know, like, climb a tree or something. Like, just something fun. Something where something happens. Like, when you do something should happen, and then that's the conclusion after that. Like, you read a book, and you know that you're going to read the book, and it's going to go from beginning to end, and something will happen in the book, and you're satisfied because something happened. Or you eat a food, and then you put the food in your mouth, and the food, you can taste it. You can taste the texture. You can taste the food. So something happened. Well, sadly to say, this movie, Mr. Harrigan's Phone, oh my God. By the end of this movie, I was audibly going, it's still going on. It's still going. Please end. Please. This is torture. This movie was torture. It was absolute torture. Okay. So that's what I think about this movie. Guys, I hated this movie. I absolutely hated this movie. And I'm going to tell you why. Because I know that a lot of people are probably looking forward to this movie. Like, just imagining looking forward to this, and then you watch it. It's like... Like, is this a prank? Is this, like, some sort of a put-on or something? Like, this movie is a... Like, I have seen so many bad movies this year. The majority of them new releases. Doctor Strange 2, X, Pearl, which I actually turned that one off. That's for damn sure. Because it was a part of the same series, so I knew that, maybe I could find something else to watch, which I did. And let me just say this, too. I want all of you guys who said that, what was that movie called? The Greatest Beer Run Ever. I want all you guys who said the greatest beer run ever is boring. You guys said that it's 2 hours, it feels like 5 million hours. You know, if you guys thought that was boring, I swear, watch this movie and then tell me that movie is boring still. I swear, you will. I mean, if you guys thought The Greatest Beer Run Ever was boring, you don't even know the definition of the word boring, because this movie, it was like, I had more fun getting a root canal last year for 2.5 hours than watching this movie for 1.5 hours. That's how bad this movie was. Okay, let me tell you about this movie, because I'm sure it's like, oh, this movie can't be that bad, Marco. You're just over-exaggerating for comedic effect. Well, I know I do that a lot, but in this case, it is genuine. It is 100% genuine. Safi can attest that she was sitting in the kitchen, and she heard me going, "Ah!" Okay? She can testify to that. She will tell you, because this movie stars the boy from It Chapter 1 and the shitty parts of Chapter 2. Well, actually, the whole movie was shitty, but whatever. And the first one kind of was too. He was the kid who played the main one, the kid with the brother who gets killed in the beginning. I can't remember his name. I think it was Bill, and I think in this movie he's Billy. I can't remember because it's just such trash. So you have, let's just call him Billy from It. And then you have Donald Sutherland. And he is the main antagonist, ? And then you have the kid's dad, and there's a bully, there's a love interest, there's a girl he friend zones, there's a guy who, like, he gets paid to give tours of a school, even though he doesn't even give a tour of the school. There's a hot ass fucking teacher, the girl from Queen Pins, who it's sad that she wasn't in more of this movie, because then I probably would have given this a higher grade, and I would have gone yum 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 yum. It's sad because I can't do that. Well, I just did it, but I can't really officially do that because she's hardly in the movie. She's basically like a cameo, an extended cameo, like Bill Murray in Zombieland. If you guys have ever seen that movie, was good. That movie was a fun movie. It was as some people like to say, a fun but flawed ride, and and that was probably the best part of that movie. But anyways, this movie is all about a kid who, this kid, he's a kid, right? And you guys know that because I just said he's a kid. You guys can tell how much I hate this movie. I despise it. This movie, I so much wish I could put this movie as the worst movie of 2022, but I literally can't, because there's 3 movies that are worse than this. That's how bad this is. And that's how bad the majority of movies have been this year, is that I wish I could put them all in last place. And what I'll probably do is just bundle them all together as last place. I might do that because that's how much I hate these movies. So you have this kid, and and the reason why I say that is because he literally even says he doesn't know why he was chosen. Like, he says it could have been any kid that was chosen, but it happened to be him. So that's why I'm sort of acting like that, because, like, he's just a random guy. There's nothing really special about him, although I'm sure that some priests would probably find something special about him, if you know what I mean. Anyway, anyways, he reads a little passage from the Bible, and you have Donald Sutherland. He's this rich douchebag named Mr. Harrigan, although he should have been just named Mr. Scrooge, because that's what he was. He was Scrooge. But he was a smarter Scrooge who had fee-fees, and he's a little lonely, so he wants this boy to come over and read to him every day, or like every week. I can't remember, because I literally just don't care. It was that bad. And then at the end of the week, he gives him like $5, or no, he said $5 an hour. I can't remember. He pays this kid monies to read to him, and it's sort of exactly how you'd expect. It's the same old bullshit story where you have an old person, they're lonely, so they have a kid entertain them, and the kid, of course, doesn't really know much about them, or they can't really judge much because they're kids, and so they're more innocent, and, probably if he hired an adult, they would find out his past and just be like, no, I'm not going to read to him. He's a selfish, rich douchebag. Because apparently he's like an evil businessman who he would shut down companies and liquidate them and put people out of jobs. And he was just an all-around terrible person. But you really have to be a terrible person to be a successful businessman, unfortunately. And that's sort of what this movie shows. And so he's happy because this kid likes him, and he ends up really liking him. And it's like, oh, wow, this is like Batman and Robin, but even more boring and less gay. And and so what happens is everyone has a phone. Everyone in school has a phone. Like, there's no one in school who doesn't have a phone except for the uncool kids. And so the main guy, he really wants a phone. He just wants one so bad. And so then his dad gets him a phone for Christmas, and at the same time, Mr. Harrigan gets him a lottery ticket, which every single once in a while he gives him a bonus, which is this Red Devil lottery ticket, and that's another like obvious message, and we'll talk all about the writing and directing for sure, believe me. Neither of them are getting off easy, because you guys can tell I'm suffering. I suffered watching this movie. It was like seeing a glimpse of hell and being like, oh wow, I don't want to go there. So he gets this lottery ticket, and it's an evil hell lottery ticket, and he wins $3,000. Wow. He spends some of the money on getting Mr. Harrigan a phone. And then Mr. Harrigan, he starts not paying attention so much to the readings. He starts just, looking at his phone all the time. Because phones are addicting, didn't you know? And there's all these problems with phones. Like, eventually, I'm shooting this video on a phone to give you guys helpful information about this movie, which is a new release, and you can decide whether you would or wouldn't want to watch it. I'm doing this all on my phone, but I guess phone's bad, so who cares? I would say that social media is bad and that phones are not as bad as social media. Like, social media is like 1,000 times worse than just phones in general. Like, you could spend just the same amount of time that you spend on a computer as on a phone. Because that's what I used to do. Like, I used to come home from school, and instead of getting a cell phone, I asked for a laptop. And I would just get on this laptop, and I'd just sit there the entire rest of the day, messaging, playing Roblox, watching YouTube, watching Netflix. And you know, I could do the same thing with my phone. You know, like, it's really no different. It's just a boomer thing of like, oh, I don't like phones because phones are the devil. And so Mr. Harrigan, he smartly denounces phones. And he says, phones bad. Eventually, phones will be bad. And everybody will be on their phone. And the phone will phone. And it's really weird. It's just completely out of nowhere. And then he says some stuff about fake news and politicians. And that's the moment where you realize that that's what this whole piece of shit, bullshit, boring ass movie was all about. It was all about Stephen King and his anti-Trump obsession. That's what this entire story, this entire movie is all about. And I don't care, I literally don't care. I'm just saying, like, that's the motive for this movie, though. Objectively speaking, that's the entire point of this movie, is Stephen King's anti-Trump obsession that he has on Twitter all day long. And I swear, like, it is so bizarre because Stephen King, he spends all day on his phone tweeting. He spends just as much time tweeting as Trump did when he was president. And that's all he does. Like, he doesn't even write anything anymore. He just sits around tweeting all day long. And I swear, this movie fucking blows. Like, this movie is just the worst thing that ever existed. Like, I hate this movie, and I don't even want to talk about it anymore, but I have to. Isn't that sad? So, what happens is, then Mr. Harrigan dies, and oh no, he dies, wah. And then some strange things start to happen where, and by strange things, I mean like a couple of things here and there. Billy, he gets texts that say like CCCAX, and it's like, okay, this is what a boomer types like, for sure. And then he gets calls, and he knows that they're calls from that guy specifically because he hears the ringtone, which is a song specifically that Mr. Harrigan likes, which I gotta say, that was a little strange because you could just look at your phone and you would see the name. You don't have to hear the ringtone. Like, I know that people ignore calls, but if they ignored a call from someone they knew, they could just call them, like, a couple of minutes later or something. Like, it's really not that big of a deal. It was just something that this movie put in there and inserted so that you would know as the audience that Mr. Harrigan was calling. And that it would be like, oh, wow. And that's another thing, too, is that Mr. Harrigan gave a name for himself, a nickname, and his nickname is Pirate King. And, like, like, watching Donald Sutherland be taught by the kid from It how to use a cell phone and then put in Pirate King as his name. Like, I never would have expected that I'd see that in this timeline, I swear. And then, what happens is some people die, supposedly because of Billy calling the phone, and because he puts Mr. Harrigan's phone in his coffin with him, which was very bizarre. It's like, God, these people really are obsessed with their phones. Like, you got these people at the funeral, they're looking at their phones. They have this, and I will admit, like, looking back, there are a lot of people who are obsessed with their phones, but I wouldn't really say that it's something for a horror movie. Like, I would say that it would be more, you could probably make a good comedy where you could sort of show the transition of people using their phones all the time and make it like American Pie meets The Social Network or something. And that would be pretty poignant, and because it did kind of seem a little like, this is kind of sad. You had this room full of people in this cafeteria. They're all on their phones. But it's just such obvious pandering. Like, everything in this movie is just so blatantly obvious. There's nothing subtle. It's just all in your face, typical Stephen King nonsense. And it's cringy, it's melodramatic, it's preachy, it's just so trash. And so then what happens is, guys, I'm not kidding here, a couple of people die. I think like 3 people, and one of them, she dies, but it has nothing to do with the phone. And then he uses the phone to kill the guy who killed her on accident. Well, I don't know if you could call it an accident if he was getting drunk, but whatever. It's terrible anyways. And then what happens, though, is he throws away his phone. Wow. God, that was just, oh my God, that was so amazing. Greatest thing I've ever seen. Not. Okay, by the end of this movie, for the last 20 minutes, I was sitting there groaning in pain. Like, I don't know, like, I've never experienced pain like this before watching a movie. It is the worst pain to ever feel, watching a movie that is boring. I mean, that is the absolute worst. So, what happened, though, was I literally put the movie on 1.5 speed. I put it on the maximum speed that you could turn up on Netflix to make this movie go fucking faster, because it was so boring. I was about ready to turn it off. And I just thought, I'm going to stick it out. I'm going to... I don't understand. Like, what were these people thinking making this movie? This movie was so bad. It was so bad, and you have all these actors. They all seem like they could do pretty well in a good horror movie. That's another thing. This is not a horror movie. The horror is having to watch this movie. I mean, this... And I know one certain commenter will very much appreciate this. Watching this movie is a fate worse than death, okay? That's how bad this movie is. Like, I don't understand. The point of this movie was Stephen King's personal agendas. Those were the points of the movie, and that's why the movie's terrible, because the movie is not written as a scary horror story. It's written as a story where, hey, I can tell the audience, phones are bad. Fake news is bad. Fake news is gonna hurt people. Wah! It's not like there wasn't fake news before phones were invented. Like, wow, I've never heard of one of those magazines, where they have like, did JFK turn into an alien? Question mark? Did Abraham Lincoln secretly have an army of aliens? Question mark? Did monsters rule the world before humans? Question mark? There have been bad fake news, BS things ever since the beginning of time, probably even before, like, those magazines. I bet the enemies would sabotage communication and make up fake news they did, like with the Normandy beach. That's how they surprised the Nazis at Normandy Beach. I mean, fake news has been around forever. Like, it just doesn't come on cell phones. That's not reality, Mr. Boomer. Okay? Like, just stop. Just stop. Nobody wants this trash. Like, this is fucking trash. Okay, let's talk about the good, because there is something to mention. There is a bully in this movie. He is the school bully. He's this goth kid, and they start off with the typical stereotypes where it's like, oh, look, there's that group of people, stay away from them, go near them if you want this or that. And it's funny because this goth kid, Kenny, he is like the best part of the entire movie. Like every time he comes onto screen, he is just, I don't know if he's doing a good job at acting or he's doing like a really such a bad job that it's funny and good, but he is doing the perfect impression of John Bender if John Bender was a goth kid. Like it is it is one of the best things I've seen all year. It's just so sad he's trapped in this trash movie, because I could watch, and I know that this might sound like blasphemy, I could watch an entire Breakfast Club remake with this guy playing Bender. As long as it's not a shitty, woke version of Breakfast Club, I could watch this guy be John Bender easily. He is so hilarious. He is he is so over the top. I mean, this movie really reminded me of My Soul to Take. It was that over the top. It was that just obvious, in your face, just preaching and preaching and preaching, like, oh, this is the title of the book, and the book's title and the passages he's reading, they're all significant to the plot, and it's just, ugh. Like, I gotta be honest too, like, for the amount of demonization of phones in this movie, like, I don't like cell phones personally very much, but I tolerate them. They're a tool, and I use them like a tool. I that's how I do it. Like, it's the same thing with Twitter. I don't really even use Twitter. There's a lot of great porno on there, but other than that, pretty much all I do with Twitter is post links to my videos. That's all I do, because I hate Twitter. And so, but the thing is that, like, it's also, you can tell Stephen King wrote it because there's this whole sort of emphasis on reading books, and there's this part where Mr. Harrigan says, I know that you wanted to be a screenwriter, but there's a joke about screenwriters. I don't want to repeat it here, but screenwriters, they're just not as superior as book writers. And it's just so cringeworthy, because here's the thing, like, I've read a ton of books on my phone and on Safi's phone. I have read a ton, like, let's see, 25 plus Goosebumps books that I've listened to on my phone. Conversation with the Devil by Napoleon Hill, which was awesome. I haven't finished it yet, but I read that. I read another book or two on my phone. I just can't remember the titles, but I know I did, for sure. I read a serial killer book on Safi's phone. I read like 3 Goosebumps books on her phone. I read another one on her phone that I can't remember. And it's like, like, phones are just tools. Like, you can get a lot of use out of your phone. And so this whole, like, thing of, like, books are better than phones. Why should you look at your phone when you can look at a book? It's hard for me. I don't like reading books physically. I like listening to them. It's a lot easier for me. And so I only like to read books if I really have to. I don't like the texture. I don't like the feeling, getting the pains from, holding books a certain way and stuff, like with the fingers. I just prefer to listen to them on my phone, and I don't see anything wrong with that. The whole point is that you're reading and that you're getting the information out of the books. And so, this movie. And what else is good? Donald Sutherland is fine. I just said Donald Sutherland is fine. That's how off I am today after watching this trash. But he does a good job. It's just sad that he was stuck with this bad script. It sucks that everyone. See, guys? See how off I am? It sucks everyone was stuck with this off script. This script was terrible. The way that the movie looks was terrible. I mean, come on. Stop sucking the color out of film. Stop making movies look like Hallmark movies. Stop making them look like commercials. This movie looks so ugly and dull. It looks so colorless and ugh. Like, this is the type of lighting that you use when you have like a hallucination sequence. Like, the whole movie looks, it looks painfully bad. It looks like the sand at the beach, like a white sand, like a really ugly ass sand. It looks so ugly. Like, movies are supposed to have color in them. That's the whole point. Like, if you're not going to put color in your movie, just put it in black and white now. Like, just do one or the other. Don't have this halvesies thing where it's like, oh, look, I'm doing something stylish, where I have like these mustard colors and I have all these ugly browns and blues and like gray. The whole movie looks gray and dull and ugly. Like, if this movie actually had color in it, it would improve the movie like a little tiny bit. And so it really sucks that they couldn't even do that. And the music was terrible. Everything. Just, I hate this movie. I hate it. And nothing happens. Nothing. I was waiting for something interesting to happen, just sitting there. And I was like, I was looking forward to watching this movie, because I thought, oh, a Stephen King movie will have lots of fun stuff. It'll have lots of little, scary things that happen, or scary things that aren't scary, but they're fun. It'll put me in a Halloween mood. This movie was not meant for Halloween. It wasn't really meant for any time of year because it was so bad. So now let's talk about the writing. As I put on my Letterboxd review, Stephen King is not progressing as a writer. He's just not. He doesn't even want to write. He just wants to sit on Twitter and make tweets about his politics that nobody cares about. And by the way, there's this whole thing in the movie about how Donald Sutherland goes on a rant about how you can use cell phones for evil and you can put out information that will hurt people. And I personally think that celebrities like Stephen King, they have no business telling people their personal politics on Twitter. They have no business bullying their fans for having certain politics, regardless of what kind of politics. They have no business lecturing them on Twitter, telling them, I don't like who you voted for, so don't follow me. Like, that's what celebrities do, and like, they abuse their power. They abuse it. And, Stephen King, he abuses his power as a celebrity all the damn time, tweeting his personal politics on Twitter. And so this whole movie is just hilariously hypocritical, like the messaging and everything. Like, the way that he calls Mr. Harrigan, and he literally asks for him to kill people as a ghost. That whole thing is just basically trying to be like an analogy for like, oh, when you put out fake news, you kill people. Like, when Trump puts out fake news, he kills people. Like, that's basically the message of this movie, is that like, did you know that phones can hurt people too? Like, words can hurt people. They're very harmful. Forget about sticks and stones. Words are the real things that hurt people. That's the message of this movie. And it's just so ironic and hypocritical, it's not even funny. And so he's just never going to progress as a writer. He just writes the same old characters over and over again. He writes the same setting over and over again. He has the same cliches happen over and over again. And it's like, I'm sick and tired of playing the Stephen King drinking game and saying like, oh wow, look, here's some religious crap. here's some shitty father, here's some shitty, here's a school teacher, here's a bully, here's school, here's a villain who isn't scary in the slightest. And it's like, I'm sick and tired of these same things happening in his stories over and over and over again. And it's not good at all. It's bad. And it's like, it's just gotten to the point where it's like, enough is enough. If you're not going to actually try to write a good story, if you're not going to, it's sort of like what David Lynch did in Twin Peaks Season 3. The way that he had that scene with the sweeping for like 10 minutes long, where the guy just sweeps for 10 minutes. And it's like, oh, I'm David Lynch, I can do whatever I want. It's the same thing for Stephen King with this movie, where it feels like this movie doesn't go anywhere interesting. It's terrible, it's awful, it's boring, it's preachy, it's so bad. And it's like, Stephen King just needs to stop. He needs to retire. He needs to just go off. Throw away your phone, Stephen. If you really think that phones are so bad, then why don't you emulate the character in this movie? Go to a river, go to a creek, and stand there and make a pouty face and throw away your phone if you really think they're so bad. Because otherwise, you really don't have any room to talk. You don't have any room to make this story, make this movie. Because it's like, oh, but you're on your phone all the time, douchebag. And then you have the director, John Lee Hancock, who, he has done 2 great movies. The Founder, which is one of my favorite movies of the last decade, which I don't know if he wrote the script or not. I don't know. But that movie was incredible. And of course, that movie was very infamous because somebody didn't submit the movie to the Oscars, and it literally caused the movie to not get any attention, which is so sad because it deserved Best Picture, Best Actor, it deserved all these awards, and it didn't get submitted, which is pretty hilarious. That has to be one of the worst movie mistakes in history. One of the worst, just genuine mistakes. And he also made Saving Mr. Banks. That was a really incredible movie. I love that. That was a great movie. Such a fun movie to watch after seeing Mary Poppins as a kid growing up. And then The Highwayman is okay. It's pretty boring. It's pretty lame and tame. And it has a lot of the same problems that this guy has. It's okay. And then you have The Little Things. That movie's a hunk of trash. But it has a couple of redeeming factors. It had a lot of potential. I was very excited for it. And then you had The Blind Side. That movie was trash. Soap opera comedy trash. And then you have this movie. This movie is his worst movie that I've seen so far. It is, and it's PG-13, of course, so it's not a real horror movie, regardless. I hate this movie so much. I despise it. I wish I could get all that time back that I spent watching it. I don't even like if this review gets some views, I don't even care. That's how much I hate this movie. I wish I could have seen something else instead. But whatever. And that's the thing. That's the sad realization with this movie. Is that this director, he's not going to progress either. Because he just did The Little Things. We already said the problems with that movie. And then he made this one. And it feels like, honestly, it's the same thing with Better Call Saul, to where either they don't get the criticism or they just don't care. And either way, it's pretty bad. It's a bad look, because when you're an artist, it's fine to have sort of just the belief that, you can do what you want. But at the same time, when you make movies and you're making them for an audience, at some point you have to draw the line, and you have to listen to that audience to try to see if there's things that you could improve upon, because nothing, you're not ever going to have a perfect movie on purpose. Like a lot of movies that people consider perfect, which, like, for me, my favorite movie is Fright Night. That movie, when they made that movie, they didn't make a perfect movie. They didn't try to make a perfect movie. And the people who made this movie, it doesn't really feel like they tried at all. That's the sad part. Like, this movie, it has all the same problems that John Lee Hancock's films have. He has that boring old people font for the titles. He has an ugly, dull-looking film. The way it looks, it's colorless. The characters are uncharismatic and dull. There's all this queer religious imagery and symbolism that doesn't really have anything to do with the plot. Doesn't really have anything, like, to do with anything. It's just like there because it'd be the same thing with me. Like, I love spaghetti, so I'm just going to put spaghetti in every scene of my films. Like, that's what it's like to me. And then nothing happens. You sit there and you wait and you wait and you wait for something to happen. I remember, I'll never forget watching The Little Things. I had to take a piss so bad watching that movie, and I sat there waiting and waiting and waiting for something to happen because I was like, I don't want to go to the bathroom because I don't want to accidentally miss something that happens. And so I suffered the whole movie because I was like waiting for something to happen. And then at the end of the movie, I was like, oh shit, nothing's going to happen in this trash. And all that pain sitting there waiting to go to the bathroom, it was all pointless. I could have gone to the bathroom at any time and I wouldn't have cared. And it was just such a disappointment. This movie, it wasn't as disappointing, but it was still disappointing regardless. To rate this movie in terms of food, I'm going to have to talk about Taco Bell, because Taco Bell did something very disappointing. Well, they do something very disappointing all the damn time. Taco Bell, one of the things that place is known for, and sadly, it's like this weird trend for restaurants to take items that people love off their menu. I don't know why they do that. It's a really bad business decision. Like, recently they got rid of Choco Tacos, which are like considered the best ice cream treat that ever existed. Very bad decision there. Well, with this, Taco Bell, they get rid of their items all the time. Like, they get rid of their items so much that there a whole movement devoted to the Mexican pizza had to form to get the Mexican pizza back, supposedly forever. And they brought it back, and then they immediately took it away. And then they finally brought it back again now, this month. And to me, that's what this movie is like. It's like when you go to Taco Bell, and let's say, there's this thing on the menu that I kind of like. It's called the grilled cheese burrito. It's pretty good. It's too greasy and it's just too much. I prefer to have like a burrito supreme, which is smaller. Or, my favorite thing always used to be the chicken quesadilla. And then they had this really delicious thing called the shredded chicken griller. And it was so delicious, and they took that off the menu, of course. And they take everything off the menu. Like, every time you go there and you like something, they take it off. And it's like, oh, what do you have that's left? Oh, you have all these boring items, like the soft taco. Ugh! Like, I had a soft taco once. It made me want to throw up. They had this really gross chicken thing that they brought, and it was so gross because I got it this one time. It was like a soft chicken taco, and the chicken they had just 2 pieces of chicken in this whole taco, and it was like, it wasn't, it was overcooked to where it was like eating rubber. It was so gross. And that's what this movie is like. This is like where I had a chicken taco this summer, conveniently on a day where I watched and reviewed Better Call Saul. I got one of these chicken tacos. That's what this movie is like. It is like a chicken taco from Taco Bell, where you have 2 little tiny pieces, and all the rest of it is lettuce, cheese. They don't even put tomatoes in that bitch, and then some sauce, and that's it. That's what this movie is. It's such trash. And just because it's this trash, I'm going to put a picture of that taco on this screen right now. It's not the taco that I had, but it's a picture of the image that they had on the menu. I don't even think you can get it anymore because it was so bad. And it's unfortunate because I had gotten this taco 1 week before, and I liked it so much that I wanted to get it again. And I wanted to show Safi it was good. And then, what do you know, it was terrible. Like everything at Taco Bell. Taco Bell, they're like the big disappointment restaurant. Like, they're a disappointment. Stephen King's a disappointment. And John Lee Hancock is an even bigger disappointment. So, please like this video, comment. Tell me what you thought of Mr. Harrigan's phone. If you like this movie, I'm glad someone liked it, honestly. And then please subscribe to this channel if you like to see more honest movie reviews on YouTube. So goodbye, everybody. See you soon.